All right, perfect. Hi, everybody. I'm super excited for this. This is the first in a new series called CEO Conversations. It is a PowerPoint-less, deck-less conversation. I really do want this to be something where if you have questions throughout it, stick it in the chat. I get very distracted by the chat. I promise I am keeping an eye on it, but if I don't answer it right away, it's because I'm trying to get through my point before I get distracted because that is my magpie syndrome is looking at Zoom chats. But today we're here to talk about mid-year reviews. How do you actually look at your business in a way that works for you, that is not targeting those kind of vanity metrics or metrics that somebody else in your industry might be gauging against, but are irrelevant for you or secondary to the goals that you actually have? So we're going to talk through what a mid-year review is and what it's not. Then we're going to get into the four buckets that I like to look at and that I walk all my clients through as well. And then we're going to look at, okay, once you've collected that data, what do you do with it? How do you actually make decisions based off of what you collected? Especially because some decisions you might not have enough data for yet. So, how do you determine I need to wait and hold and collect data versus, oh no, I really do have enough. I need to now make a decision on it. Because I know that tends to be a sticking point for people of, I need the data, but do I have enough data? And we're going to try and answer all those brain loops so that you don't have them leaving this call. Um, I have notes to the side if I'm ever looking away. So, a little incentive for showing up, and because I'm frail, full transparency, figuring out what the hell I'm doing with these CEO conversations. This is day number one. Anyone who's here with me live, if you want to be entered to win a free mini session, it's a 30-minute strategy session. Just type enter me or your name in the chat. I'm going to draw at the end of the month. Anyone who's catching the replay, if you send me an email with a takeaway or an action item or a result of, hey, I did this thing you told me to do and this is what happened, you'll get entered and again drawn at the end of the month. It'll be the very end of June. But that's really my whole pitch. I'm not here to sell you into anything. This is something that I want to give back to, and also I nerd out over reviews and check-ins and audits and strategic planning. So if you do end up wanting to work with me after this, just send me an email. I'll also send some links in the chats in the replay. But really, it's just a matter of how do we get the mid-year review to be something that's an asset and not a task? Because that's one of the reasons I think so many entrepreneurs don't do mid-year reviews, is it feels like this overwhelming, what am I supposed to do? Okay, I track my followers, I track my email open rates, I track my click-through rates, I track my blog subscribers. How is that any different? And I just want to clean up a lot of the noise that you might hear. Again, if you've got any questions along the way, stick them in the chat so it's not just me blabbering away at you because it makes it more fun. Any questions before we get into it? Perfect. So, first and foremost, mid-year reviews. Mid-year reviews are not the same as your monthly reviews. They are, okay, they are not looking at outputs. So a lot of the times we hear in the etherwebs that a mid-year review is looking at how many posts did you put up? How many emails did you put up? How many Substack posts? How many podcast episodes? How many networking conversations? How many things did you do? Or how much money did you make? How many conversations have you had? And that's really it. And when we look at just the inputs in quantity, and or we look at just the outputs of the high level, it doesn't really give us the full picture, right? Just saying, oh, I made $20,000 over the last 3 months or 6 months doesn't tell us how you made that money. The point of a review really is to understand not only what data are you collecting, is it the best data for you, but it's also to help you make the decisions that you need to make. So Emily and I do very similar things. We both support women in business. We have different goals. We have different strategies. We have different structures and ways of doing business. So even though we might still be business coaches, I'm picking on you, Emily, because you're great for this. We're going to look at things differently. Our mid-year reviews are going to be very different from one another because we structure our business differently. So it's not about how quickly can I get my mid-year review done. I'm going to tell you right now, if it's done properly, it should be taking you minimum an hour. Not saying it should be taking you a day and a half, but this is not something that you can squeeze in the best possible way between client sessions or at the end of a Wednesday when you're already tired. I would block out, depending on how often you collect data and how much you're actually reviewing your business right now, I would block out 1 to 3 hours. Because if you don't use it, great, awesome, go about your day. If you do need it though, you have a chunk of uninterrupted time where you actually get to sit down and go through all of the different layers we're going to talk about today. So again, the whole point of doing a mid-year review, and you can do these quarterly, right? I like to do them at least twice a year. That's me. But the whole point of it is to collect the right data, right, for you, and to make the smart decisions off of that data for you. And then the general approach, the very, very high level approach I like to take when it comes to this is be the 4-year-old who is so annoying and doesn't stop asking why. Like this is your permission slip. This is your opportunity to be so flippin' annoying in your own business because we're going to go into as much detail as we can. That makes sense. There is a point where if you get more granular, it's just a waste of time. But we're going to go as deep as we can, and then we're going to tie it and follow that thread all the way through. And that'll make more sense in a couple minutes as we talk through the marketing part. But really, I want you to take the approach of how can I ask why? 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 Well, what does that do? Well, if I do that, what does that do? Right? Like channel that inner 4-year-old who wants to understand why the sky is blue today, but it's gray yesterday. That's the general approach we're taking here. So where most people go wrong is they're doing a very high level, very surface level review of the quantity of inputs, nothing else, or the high level outputs. But if all you're tracking is those high level outputs, like what was my revenue? What was my profit? How did my community grow? If that's all you're looking at, those are all what's called lagging indicators. They happen after everything built up into it. You didn't just happen to make 20 grand in 6 months. You built day after day after day of habits, behaviors, mindsets, strategies, and structures that then led you to that ultimate $20,000. So what we're really going to focus on is everything else. We're going to look at the high level stuff. We're going to look at the outputs because those are necessary, but we're going to spend the bulk of our time looking at what led to that because this is the stuff that you actually get to change. You don't get to just all of a sudden say, well, it's July 1st. Where's my $40,000 this quarter? We're going to build up all of this preceding steps. Any questions? Cool beans. Hey, Janet, it's nice to see you. All right, so we look at 4 different buckets. I'm going to talk through each one as a silo just to keep us on track, but really they flow together. I will tie it together, but we're going to look at 4 different buckets. The first one is our financials. It's the easiest starting point, right? You're going to look at your top line revenue and your sources. So, not just, I'm going to use my business as examples, not just, oh, I made this much off of my 6 month program, but where did those clients come from? If you enrolled 3 new clients, where did they come from? Was it a referral? Was it Instagram? Was it LinkedIn? Was it your Substack? Source out where. And do that for every single revenue stream you have. So not just, oh, I made X number of dollars, but I made X number of dollars. Offer number one made this. Offer number two made this. Offer number three made this. Maybe you have some affiliate links, some kind of quote unquote passive income. Any revenue stream you have, write down what it did. Then you're going to do the same thing for your expenses. We're running businesses here. Our top line revenue is not the stuff we actually get to take home. So actually going through all of your expenses as well and finding themes for them, finding categories. So it's not just I spent $12.95 on Canva and 16 whatever on Gmail, but where is your money going? Are you using the expenses? Do you have some of those subscriptions to God knows what that you don't even know if you've ever logged into it? Or memberships that you haven't logged into in a year and a half? Really taking note of where your money is going. And then we're going to look at the profit. Now, I know most of your businesses, most of us are probably running fairly high profit margin businesses because we don't hold inventory, we don't hold physical goods. I think if it's different for you, let me know. But your profit margin is important because you want to know what kind of wiggle room you have between the number of clients you need to serve or the number of things you need to sell and what you can do to resource yourself. Is that a new tech skill? Is that a new team member? Is that outsourcing something? You need to know the amount of profit that you're taking home, including profit after tax. And then the last thing in the financial bucket, and this is the one that I see most people miss, is cash flow. So it does and it doesn't. It doesn't really matter if you're making 40, 50, $60,000 months if you make that once a year and that money has to take you the next 11 months. So we also really want to make sure that we're looking at how cash is flowing in and out of our businesses. One, that gives you the understanding of where you might need to adjust where you're selling or how you're selling, might need to adjust your expenses, might just need to know, the month before my next big live launch is going to be a little bit tighter money-wise. How do I, as the business owner, as the person behind the business, adjust my own spending to account for that? Because we don't want to be in this position where, again, maybe you're making $60,000, $70,000 off of a launch, but that then has to last you for 6, 7, 8 months. And you get to month 5 and you're like, well, shit, I kind of forgot about this. I forgot that I actually have that new team member starting and I need to pay them XYZ. So that's why we really want to make sure that we're taking a look at cash flow as well. Any questions on financials? Cool. I'm going to keep asking, mostly because I want to make sure you guys are good, and also it keeps me on track. So if I sound like a broken record, I am well aware of this fact. We're going to keep on going. But those are the financials. Those are the top line entry points. Okay, great. We're running for-profit businesses here. This gives us a snapshot of what's going on. And right away, when you start doing that, you'll be able to see, oh, actually, I'm not running a profit. Or I'm running a profit, but it's a lot thinner than I'd like it to be. Or maybe you're in the spot where you're like, I'm actually doing really, really well here. I need to talk to Janet. She's going to help me take care of my money and make more money off of it. But we need to know what that starting point is. From there, we're going to pin financials for a second. We're going to move on to sales and marketing. And this is where I see most people spend their time. They're like, okay, great, I got this. This is how many times I posted on Instagram. This is how many times I put an email out. This is how many, right? We get into the how many things have I done? Again, that's not the point of a mid-year review. The quantity rarely matters. It's the quality and the type and quality of data you get off of that. So if it is helpful to you, great. Count up how many emails you've done, count out how many LinkedIn lives or Instagram lives, great. If that is helpful to you, fabulous. I also want you, I almost said instead, I also want you to put in themes and patterns that you notice. So you're going to do a deep dive on every single marketing strategy and sales strategy that you have, which means if you use email, you're going to do this on email, LinkedIn, Substack, networking, group networking, one-on-one networking, live events like this, if you do in-person events. Every single different type of marketing channel that you use, you're going to do this for. The specifics of what you do are going to, again, be specific to what channel it is. And if you have questions, this is a great opportunity if you have a specific channel. But what we want to be doing is looking at what did I do in this marketing channel and what did it result in, right? We're going to tie that thread through. So I post on LinkedIn. Great. So it's not about I posted 5 times this week and 4 times the week before and 6 times the week before that. It's more about I posted this type of content and it led to this many conversations. I'm going to use personal examples. I posted about my dog who was injured. That kind of personal storytelling and connection back to my business, because there was a business lesson there, outperforms my educational content. That's a pattern. It's not that I posted a picture of my beautiful dog, Jack. It's about I posted something that said, hey, I'm a human being and obsessed with dogs because they're amazing. And this is relevant to you because that then led to different types of conversations. Versus, I am very long-winded, guys. You know this by this point. A long form educational post where I am digging into the 4 different pillars and yada, yada, yada doesn't do a whole lot. So if all I'm looking at from a review perspective is I posted 5 times this week and 5 times the week before, without looking at what type of content am I posting? What are the themes? What's the general vibe? I swear a lot. Did I swear in that one? We know algorithms don't like that. When we're looking at the patterns, that gives us data that says, hey, when Chrissy is more personal, she gets more conversations, which then means the decision I'm going to make off of that piece of data says, I need to get a little bit personal more often. Not I'm going to share all of the things happening in my world, but maybe it is I talk about my boys more. Or I tie in, because if you have animals or children, you know that there are a lot of business lessons dealing with dependence. I'm going to tie in more of those stories. That's a really great way for me to share a business lesson that's not, here is your business lesson. This is the thing I want you to learn, right? So when you do your deep dive on your marketing channel, it really is going to be about what patterns are you noticing? What types of blogs are getting more subscriptions? What countries, Lisa, I'm looking at you, what countries are people more interested in? Are they more interested in learning about Africa and Asia? Or are they more interested in the Western or Eastern European countries? When they get into those, right, we're being that 4-year-old who just won't shut up. In those, which ones specifically? Are they more interested in Bulgaria? Are they more interested in Hungary? Which one leads then to specific conversations or subscribers? And some of this, you're not going to have all the data right away, right? You have most likely longer term funnels or nurturing sequences in your business. So, especially for blogs, Substack, email, you might not have an answer that when I'm going to pick on everybody that I know here because I think we learn really well from examples. I apologize if you don't want me to do that. I should put that in the marketing materials. But we know that, let's say Lisa knows that her people are really interested in Bulgaria. They might not sign up with her for 7 months. So it's outside of the mid-year review, right? But we can see where that data point takes us. And this is where we're going to follow the thread through. Where did they come in? What type of content, what conversation, what country, what offer, what whatever. And then what do they do? Are they opening the emails? Are they clicking anything in the emails? If they're clicking it, what are they clicking? Are they clicking through to your general website? Or are they clicking through the actual sales link that you included? This kind of behavior, this is the data that you need. Because when you can see, you know what? Nobody really cares about, I'm not going to pick on anyone here because I don't want to. Give me a second. I can never plan ahead for my examples. I always wing them because when I plan ahead, I never remember them anyway. So let's say, going back to my own business, right? People love my dogs. They're dogs, they're cute, they're amazing. But when I get on a high horse about something specific, maybe they don't. Maybe I get a lot more unsubscribes there. That's still data, right? We want to track through the overall behavior of our people, not necessarily the number of email clicks or things like that, but what is the behavior? And that's what I mean by doing a deep dive and following the thread of what's happening. And this is really good, not just for social media, not just for email or blogs. You can use it for podcast episodes, and you can also use it for networking. I know networking is one of those marketing channels that can feel really difficult to gauge, right? If you're only having a conversation with somebody maybe once or twice a year, and they recommend someone to you, but that person never says, "Oh, hey, I came from so and so." It's not an exact science with networking because not everybody remembers how they got connected, or they don't know that, Denise sent me to Janet or whatever that's going to look like. But it's still tracking the types of people that you're meeting, the types of conversations that you're having, right? Did you have a complete casual chat, or did you talk about business? Or did you only talk about business and you could not pick this person over from Eve because you don't know a single thing about them? How was the vibe? Did it feel like a good fit? Did you want to get off that 30-minute call at minute 7? Or were you like checking the time being like, "Oh, I actually really need to run. We've gone over by 40 minutes." Those are all data points. Are you following up with your networking partners? If this is one that I will say, do what you want to do. It's your business. If you are using networking strategically and for growth, please make sure you have something in there to follow up with your networking partners. This is where I see a lot of potential clients, referrals, connections fall through the cracks because there's no follow-up. So just going to add that in there. And also, that's part of where your mid-year review comes in. When's the last time that you connected with Lisa, when's the last time that you touched base with Marcella? Did you give them a generic, "Hi, friend, here's what's going on. I hope you're well"? Or did you actually say, "Hey, we had this great conversation about watermelon. Did you have watermelon?" Again, I told you guys, silly examples. All right, Lisa, what's up?
So I think you actually probably just answered my question, but when you say follow up, I was curious about is it truly, so for example, I went to a networking event last week and I talked to a couple of different people, one of which really stood out. And so I sent him a follow up and we did exchange because he did ask me if I could do some come and do a presentation. So that was a very specific follow up that I could do. But there were others that I met in other networking events in the last couple of weeks where the follow up was truly sending a LinkedIn invite and then just saying it was nice to meet you. Is that enough, or are you saying there should be more that I should be considering doing as far as follow up goes?
Mm. I would almost always say there should be more. But first, all right, thanks for coming. First, do you have, just pick one of those people. Is there a specific thing that you want in that relationship right now, or do you just want to cultivate a relationship?
The people for whom I know I can cultivate that I can get something from, not really, I mean, in the nicest possible way. The people that I can collaborate with, I guess I'll put it that way. Those are the ones that I have directly followed up with, or they've reached out to me and said, let's schedule a call. And I have done some of those. So for the other ones, it's truly about continuing to build my network for visibility purposes and with the hopes that at some point either they or someone they know would be interested in the services that I provide.
Cool. Okay. So, two different strategies. Both of them, I would say you're going to want to have more than just that one initial, "It was great to meet you. Let's stay connected." That doesn't really say anything, right? "Let's stay connected. I'll see you later." They're throwaway phrases. So, for the people where you want to collaborate and you have something specific, those I would touch base with more often. Without knowing you and without knowing how the conversation went, I would say probably like maybe 8 to 12 weeks, right? Because we're all busy. We don't want to be that person who's following up every 10 days. But really pointed, "This is what we talked about. I wanted to bring this back up on top of your radar. Would love to talk about a collaboration event," right? You can be more specific there because you're going into it with a specific ask. For the ones where you just want to cultivate that relationship, those are really great if you're already on LinkedIn. Engage in LinkedIn. It doesn't always have to be a DM or an email back and forth. Post, comment on their posts, repost things if it's relevant. We don't want to just do for the sake of doing, but just keeping top of mind and making sure that they remember who you are, that you are showing, "Hey, I'm putting time and energy into this relationship." And then with that, again, maybe every 12 weeks, give or take, you send them a DM and say, "Hey, I saw that you are up to XYZ. I saw that you just did this thing. Just wanted to see how it was going. Congratulations." Something that says, "Hey, Lisa, I'm paying attention. I'm here in your corner." And then if there does come a time where there is a specific ask, be like, "I would love to take 20 minutes and get on a call and maybe you and I can blah, 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 blah." Does that help? But those are really good question. Thank you. Those are the types of things too that we want to be tracking. That is part of the mid-year review is not only doing the thing, right? Making sure that you did in fact follow up with that person from 5 months ago, but what's happening as a result of it? Are you finding that those networking connections that you met at the big event are actually building out stronger relationships? Or are you finding that maybe they weren't really interested? And that gives you data both ways. That gives you data around the types of people that you're going to connect with, the amount of follow-ups, the frequency of the follow-ups. It gives you the data just to make better decisions. Maybe every 8 weeks is too far. If you are, hmm, let's pick on AI. If you're someone in the field of AI, 8 weeks is a lifetime. There are so many changes that are happening that to stay on top of your referral partners or your networking partners, every 8 weeks might be far too long. Maybe that is something where every 3 weeks you're sending out an email saying, "Hey, did you see this? I thought this was a really interesting article. I'm changing my offers because XYZ. Just wanted to keep you in the loop. We know that everything is changing so radically, blah, blah, blah." But if you're not tracking what happens down the pipeline, you don't know if the strategies that you're using are actually making sense. So we're going to do this on all of our channels. What did I do? Again, if you want to track quantity, track quantity. Please don't put a ton of time into it. Quantity is not the deciding factor. But what did I do? What are the patterns that I saw? And then what were the results? You can do this across any type of channel that you're using. And then also, not only what did I do and what did it cause or not cause, because not cause is also good data. Not seeing results, not getting the thing that you wanted is still really good data. But also, are you tracking it against the appropriate metric? I know I myself get called out on this quite a bit from my coach. We like to track the end result. How many clients did I sign? How much money did I make? How was the launch? But if we're tracking Instagram, I posted 20 times on Instagram in the past month, but I only got one client. There is so much space between, do you see this? There's so much space between these two things. You cannot track an Instagram post to the end result. So part of the mid-year review is also making sure that you are gauging progress against the right metric. What is your email list for? Is it lead gen? Great. Then track it against lead gen. How many more subscribers have you had? What's your open rate? What are your click-through rates? Or is it nurturing? In which case, your email list might not be growing massively, but your open rate should be increasing. Your click-through rate should be increasing. So that's just one example, but if we don't know what each step or what each strategy is supposed to be doing for us, we're most likely as humans going to default to that end goal of, well, I have 900 people on my email list and I've only gotten one client, or I've gotten 5 clients and maybe 3 of them were not my favorite. We have to know what we're actually gauging against. And that's where the mid-year review acts as that reality check, acts as that opportunity to say, hey, I'm actually doing really freaking well. And here are opportunities to tighten it up. And because we all are doing really well and we all have opportunities for improvement, it gives us the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm actually seeing a lot fall through the cracks right here. I'm not following up enough. I'm not asking specifically enough for what I want. I'm being a little too passive. I'm being a little bit too aggressive and selling in every single thing and eroding some of that trust and that likability. So it's really knowing what are you gauging against. Just want to make sure that I'm tracking on everything. One thing I will say, and this is something I do recommend to every single person across the board, almost everything is completely customizable to what your goals are, what your business is. Track the amount of times you're actively selling. Because especially for women, most women do not sell enough. An active sale, not a click the link below, DM me if you have a question, but an actual opportunity that says half of this email, half of this video, half of this whatever is this is how I can help you. So I know some of you have been on other true master classes of mine. If you have not, I'm sure you have been on master classes. There is a difference between someone who is taking 10 minutes at the end and really explaining the sale. This is how I can help you. This is why it's relevant. This is how it ties into what I taught you. This is how it's of service for you. This is da 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 da. Really takes that time, gives the sale, isn't sleazy about it. That is a sales opportunity. That counts as one time per person that you have sold. What I did at the beginning, not really an active sales opportunity, right? I said, hey guys, this is the shit that I love to talk about, that I'm really good at, that I can help you with. I'm going to put my stuff in the chat later and I'm going to send you an email with it. If you're interested, let me know. Very different energies. This, the other masterclass, that is an active sales. Mine, it's like a halfway between passive and active, right? My point of this today is not to be like, hey, come work with me. My point is for you to not waste time on a shitty mid-year review. But that's what I want you to start tracking. Because more often than not, women tend to have that more passive, that a little bit softer, less explicit. Here's the way I can help you. This is how we get it done. And that is one thing that I do think every single person should be tracking, because that gives us data of, are you selling enough? Are you letting people know, hey, I want to work with you? Or I actually really don't. Like, I've never sold you because I don't want to work with you. But giving you that data of, is there a sales opportunity or is it something different? Is it a messaging? Is it a lead gen? We just need to collect the data around the sales point, which is why I say everybody should be tracking that. And then the last thing from the marketing and sales opportunity, and I already kind of touched on this a little bit, but looking at your pipeline, really making sure, and this is something you should absolutely be doing more than every 6 months, but making sure that you are on top of your pipeline. What conversations have you had? What do you need to follow up on? When's the last time that you followed up on them? Is from an individual person perspective. And then also looking at the processes that you have in your business. Is your follow-up process enough? Is it right? Is it overkill? Are you sending emails, but people have inboxes of 900 and they're never seeing it? So you need to shift to LinkedIn or an Instagram message or WhatsApp or however it is that you connected initially. But the pipeline review, along with the how many times am I selling, how am I actually getting out there, what is my marketing doing, is really going to help you hone in on the sales side of things. Because marketing and sales are similar but different, right? That's why big companies have a marketing department and a sales department. For solopreneurs, for smaller businesses, we are all the things, but we want to make sure that we're also tracking specifically the sales activities. Any questions on the marketing side of things? Okay, so that is bucket number 2. Bucket number 3 is operations and leadership. This is where you're going to look at the resources and the structure that you have in your business. So one thing that I always recommend is time tracking. I'd say probably once a quarter. Again, this is really broad advice because it's dependent on everybody's specific situation, but at least once or twice a quarter, I would take an entire week, an ordinary week, a standard week, not a you're out for 2 days week, and track your time, because that's going to be able to give you really specific information into how you are using your time, where your time sucks are, where you're being really efficient, where things are falling through the cracks. Most businesses don't need daily time tracking throughout the year. It tends to just be a waste because it gives you too much data. But to time track 1 or 2 weeks, 6 month period is going to give you a good amount of data to see what's happening. If you have team members, a VA, social media manager, whatever, do the same thing for them. Probably they already are. Most of the time, they're going to get paid on an hourly basis. But if they're not, have them do that and make sure that they share it with you as well. Because what we want to see from the time tracking is what's taking up large chunks of your energy. There are some things when you are serving clients, that's a you. You are not delegating that out. You are the one who has to show up for your people. But if you're not booked out yet and you've got maybe 25% of the load that you want, and yet client delivery is taking 80% of your time, there's a mismatch. If you're a 25% booked and you want to get to 100% and you're already spending 80% of your time on client delivery, you can't scale that. You're not going to be able to get to 100% booked. But if you're not tracking and aware of how you're spending that 80% of your time, you can't make changes off of it. You just think, oh, I've got to go faster with my client delivery. Is it that you have to go faster with your client delivery? Or is it that you are rewriting every email because you're trying to sound a little bit nicer? Or you're trying to sound a little bit more direct? Or you're just trying to like shorten it and not be very, very verbose and long-winded? If we're not tracking it, we don't know. So that's the first thing in the ops and leadership is just how are you spending your time? How are your team members spending their time? And then again, we're going to follow the thread through. How are you or your team spending your time and what are the results of it? If it is taking you, again, example's sake, 10 hours to write your content for a week, and it ends up getting you, 15 new clients every single week. Okay, that could very well be a very good use of your time. If you're spending 10 hours a week and you've not booked a new client in 3 months, it's data. That may or may not be, probably not, but may or may not be a good use of your time. Maybe that is something that then gets delegated out or gets automated or repurposed in some way. It doesn't tell you what needs to happen, but it gives you an idea that says, hi, something is wrong here. We need to take a look at this. So that's why we really want to keep an eye on how we're using our time, how our team is using their time. Then we also want to look at the habits, the behaviors, and the mindsets. And this is one I want you guys to be tracking stuff far more often than every 6 months. If you are waiting to 6 months, one, you're losing out on good data throughout that time to make changes. And also, you are going to end up taking like entire days to get your review done. So collect data more often. But also, when we look at the habits, the mindsets, and the behaviors, I don't remember what I did a month ago, let alone in January. I'm 37. I have a decent memory. I don't remember what I was doing January 14th. When we can look at maybe like a weekly cadence, maybe every Friday you take 20 minutes and you say, hey, what were my wins this week? What felt really hard? What mindset chatter kept coming up? Did I keep having resistance around pitching myself for a podcast? Did I keep rescheduling networking calls because my energy wasn't there? That is data that we can then go back to in our mid-year review and more often in our mid-year review and say, you know what? I know we're all women. I know at this point in my cycle, I don't have the energy for networking. I don't want to talk to a single human being. So now you know, great. That week moving forward, you're going to put a block on your calendar because the calls you have are a waste of time. You are not showing up as your best self. Or maybe you know that if you take 2 days off, it actually impacts you for 3 days prior and 3 days after. That gives you data for the next time you have to take 2 days off or 3 days off to block your calendar accordingly. If you keep hitting the same resistance and you're like, I really had this project. I really wanted to start writing my book. That was a 2026 goal. I really wanted to start writing my book. And it's June 17th and you have not touched it. That's good data. What's causing that? Is there fear? Is it a mindset thing? Is it a time issue? Is it a structure issue? Is it a priority issue? Not getting to a goal or not getting to a project or not getting to something is good data that then lets you go back and analyze and say, you know what? I actually don't want to write this book. I thought I did, but every time I sit down and I try and get it out, I just can't. But I really love talking about it. So maybe it's not a book, maybe it's a podcast or an audio or whatever. Or you're like, I really wanted to do a podcast. And then you sit there all by yourself and you're like, what am I supposed? I mean, I could ramble about Wolverine. So maybe it's not a solo podcast. Maybe it's an interview series. But looking at those kinds of behaviors and habits and mindsets and really getting an idea, not just as the business owner, but as the person, as the human behind the business. Whatever's going on with you is affecting the business, and we have to do a review of that as well. And that's something that I see people miss all the time. We are not just machines. We don't just show up and do the things that we need to in business and then boot down at the end of the day and go live our lives. We're affected by everything, which means our mid-year review on ourselves also gets to look at everything. And this is where it can often take more than that, like 1 to 3 hours I gave you guys at the beginning. Taking a look at your own self. We're not going to get into this because this is not what today is about, but are you fueling your body? Are you drinking water? Are you getting movement? Are you outside in the sun? Are you seeing people? What do you as the human behind the business need to continue to show up for the business and get it done? And that falls into the ops and leadership bucket. And then the last thing here is really look, and this is for if you do and if you don't have a team, it's going to look a little different depending on either one. But are you getting the support that you need? Do you have the resources that you need? Do you want to keep writing content? That's one that a lot of people want to outsource right away. Do you have that support in place? Do you have the technology that you are not sitting there making sure that everybody who signs up for your masterclass gets the email? Do you have the email sequence built? What kind of processes can you automate? Where do things keep falling through the cracks that you need to put a system in place around? If you are consistently not this is a big one, so I'm going to keep harping on this one. If you are consistently not closing clients because you're not following up with them after the sales call, automate that. There are some really easy email automations that you can put into place there. There is no reason to lose a client because of follow-up. But when we're looking at what systems do I need, where are things not working, and where are things not working as well as they need to be or they should be compared to industry, not compared to a competitor. We do not care what the competitors are doing. We're going to benchmark against ourselves and we're going to benchmark against industry standards when available, when possible. There's not always a standard for something. But really taking a look at our entire operations from a tech perspective, from a processes perspective, and also from a team perspective, even if the team is just one person. and seeing where things are working and where things are not. And then finally, bucket number 4 that we're going to look at is the overall vision. You guys started your businesses for a reason. Are you still working towards goals that align with that? Are the goals that you set for yourself in December or January still the goals that are important right now? Did something massively change in your life that, you actually don't want 20 new clients? You don't have capacity for it, but you're still working towards a goal of 20 clients. Or maybe it's the opposite direction. Your goal was 10, and you're like, I actually got the 10 and I rocked it and I have my systems in place. I'm ready to add another 2. But if your business goal is not set up to reflect that change, you're not doing the best work every day, whether it's conscious or subconscious. So the 4th really is just looking and reflecting on, are the goals that you set and that you're actively still working on still applicable? And are they applicable to where you want to be going? This is a really good reality check of, where are you? Are you satisfied with where you are? And is where you are today getting you to where you want to be? Or did you get off track? Because it happens. We're human. There's a lot of chaos in the world and a lot of noise cluttering our brains. But just taking that moment or so to reflect on whether you actually want to be working towards what it is you're working on. So, quick recap, because I know we're coming up on time here. We're looking at 4 different buckets in our mid-year review. We're going to look at financials. That's a really easy dive in. And then we're going to get into the marketing, the sales, the ops, the leadership, and making sure all of that is working together towards where we actually want to be building. So we talked about them in silos because it makes it easier from a teaching perspective. But once you gather all of that information, nice to see you, Emily. Once you gather all of that information, then you're going to put it all together and you're going to look at these notes and say, okay, I made X dollars off of this offer and they came in through this marketing channel and this is how it happened. Thanks, Lisa. And this is how it happened and this is how I followed through and these are where my gaps are from a tech perspective or a resource perspective or my own stuff perspective. And that's how we're going to tie the output and the end results in with the inputs and how we're actually getting it done. So we're going to tie it all up at the end by really honestly just sitting back and looking at all of it and following the thread. What is all the behavior that led to that revenue, that led to that profit, that led to that cash flow, that led to the overall enjoyment or lack thereof of how I'm running my business? And when we have all of that data, then you get to go ahead and make the decisions on what needs to change and what gets to stay the same. Which, spoiler, you've actually been doing the entire time you're collecting this, the entire time you're looking at each of those 4 buckets, you're already starting to make those decisions of, I'm spending way too much time on this marketing channel. It's not getting me anything based on whatever it should be getting you, right? Again, we're not going against the end goal. We're going against the right metric for it. But taking a look at the whole thing collectively and saying, these are the areas that I need to work on, and then prioritizing it. We're not going to try and do all of the things all at once. We're human. We have other things going on in life. So how you're going to prioritize is based on where your biggest need is. If your biggest need is, I need money in the door, you're going to look at things that are going to drive your sales, that are going to drive that conversion of customer or followers or subscribers or whatever into clients. If your biggest area of opportunity is that you need to reduce the amount of time you're spending on something, you're not going to look at sales first. You're going to look at what the operations tech or personnel stack is. Or maybe it's a behavior or a mindset. Maybe you're stuck in the idea of, I've got a VA, but I don't actually want to send her this because I'm afraid she's not going to do it right. That's not actually a VA issue. That's a you and some mindset stuff. So your priorities are going to depend on what your personal priority is, but we're going to look at the biggest opportunity first, and then we're going then we're going to prioritize from there. I like to schedule things into my calendar, actually hard block time over maybe a week or so, depending on what kind of changes you need to make. But really, the focus here is not on how do I get it done as quickly as possible, but how do I make these changes that I just identified in a sustainable way? It might be that it takes you an entire month to implement all of the changes that you're making, especially if it is behavior or habit based. But really looking at the biggest opportunity for me is X. I'm going to start working on that this week, and this is how I'm going to block out time to do that. This is the second one, and you know what? I don't have bandwidth for that next week. I'm going to schedule that from 2 weeks from now. And really making sure that it works with your life, that it makes sense for you. Because we can have all of this data, but if we don't then do something with it, you wasted time. It was a total waste of time. Like, job well done. And also, the point is not to collect the data. The point is to collect the data and make decisions off of it. So we have to actually action making the decisions off of it. And we are right at the top of the hour. Are there any questions? Because that is the end of the material that I wanted to cover. Any questions on that? Janet says thumbs up. Okay, great. Alrighty. So I'm gonna save the chat because I always forget to save the chat. I will send out the recap in the next couple of hours, as well as links if you do have any questions or anything comes up. This is the first of a series. So again, my goal is to have one of these every single month. It might become more than that. If you have any questions or suggestions that you're like, I really want to hear about XYZ, shoot it over in an email or a LinkedIn message if we're connected there. But thank you so much for being here. It was wonderful to go through the mid-year review, and I'm really hoping that when you action some of these items, you let me know how it helped you out and if anything came up for you after. So with that, thank you again so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.